Is tracking every single expense the key to getting out of debt, or is it just a waste of time? Charlie's here. Let's begin.
This is Debt Free in 30. Here's your host, Doug Hoyes.
Charlie Kovacs, welcome back. You've made the trip from your office right next door here to come and chat with us today. I think every other time you've been on the show, I've said, we got the young guy on so he can tell us about the young person's perspective, but it's been so long now you're old, so we can't use that anymore. What we're talking about today has nothing to do with young or old. This is a question, I think, for everyone. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I agree.
So the question is, should you track every penny? Pros and cons of detailed spending logs. So I'm going to tell you the answer. No. There you go. Thanks for watching and listening. This is Debt Free in 30. Please like and subscribe. Hit the notification bell. Do you agree or disagree?
I think you should track.
Okay.
I think you should track
Charlie
as much
disagrees.
as you can. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I will give you the floor then. I'll sit back and you tell me, give me one good reason why you actually should track every penny.
Well, what gets measured gets managed.
What gets measured gets managed.
And I think that if you're careful with the cents and the small dollar values, you start to identify some of those problems, leaks, and stuff like that in your budget. There'll be opportunities that come to light. And also, if you start measuring, there's that interesting psychological thing where if you start measuring, you may start to reduce some types of spending because you don't want to go back and actually reconcile some of that spending. You might start to not cut as many corners with your budget.
You can identify things if you're looking for them. So give me an example, a practical example from real life, because you're meeting with a dozen people every day. This is not theoretical for you.
So if you're going to get a coffee every day, right?
Which I have in my cup. This is actual real coffee today. Very rarely do I have real coffee because we remember the incident where I spilled it all over the place and made a big mess. But I do have coffee. Okay, so every day I go and get a coffee.
If you're going to measure that at the end of the month or the end of the week, going to add up how much you're spending there. If you're actually going to give yourself time to go and measure how much you're spending at a drive-through anywhere, you may start to kind of cut back on the extra purchases, the muffin, the donut, all that extra stuff. Because if you have to go back and say and justify why did you spend $30 or $40
So do you have any idea how much a coffee costs?
Like $2.90, $3.
I also have no idea because I made this one myself, but okay, let's say it's $3, and a muffin I assume also costs money, and a donut.
Exactly, those little add-ons. So if you hold yourself accountable to go back and start tracking all of those little expenses, then you're gonna probably start to choose lower cost.
So it's possible, in fact, quite easily possible that you're spending $5 a day, maybe $10 a day, going through the drive-through. Okay, $10 a day. If there's 20 working days in a month, that's $200. If you go every day, that's $300. So your point is $300 is a lot of money.
But it doesn't seem like it.
Because it's $3 a day, $5 a day.
It's small amounts over time. And the opposite effect happens too, right? Small savings, like the law of small numbers, every day, very often, they make a huge difference.
Is that actually a law?
I think it is.
Okay, you think it's a lie. I don't think it's a law. Okay, so I'm going to tell you why you're wrong. Everything you said is factually correct. Like, yes, it's true. If I look at the sheet at the end of the month and I see that I spent $300 on coffee, I might go, boy, that's a lot of money to spend on coffee. And I might say, I love my coffee, but is there a way to get this drug without going to the dealer? Timmy's, right?
If it brings you that level of joy for the dollar cost, that's something you can live with.
But
that's okay.
But you can have the joy without spending as much money. So this particular coffee, I made at the Hoyes meticulous coffee machine there, which I guess I'm paying for, but it doesn't cost as much as the drive-through. At home, we have the fancy machine where you can put stuff in and coffee comes out the other end. And I don't know how much these machines cost. Maybe it's $100. I don't know. I go to the Toronto Farmers Market and I buy the beans and I put them in the grinding thing and so I think it costs $20 a month or something for our coffee habit. So I can still have the coffee without spending a lot of money. So I'm not anti-coffee, okay? But and what you say is correct. If at the end of the month I look at the sheet and I spent $300 on it and I realize, wait a minute, I could have spent $20 or 30 or 50 and made it myself and carried a thermos or whatever, okay, that is how I can save some money, change my behavior. I get all that. I grant you all of your points. Here's why you're wrong. No one does that. No one can do that.
You can.
No, you can't. No, you can't. So, like, do you actually expect somebody to carry a piece of paper and a pen around with them, and at the drive-thru, and they take out their pen and they write down $3.22 for coffee? Like, no one's doing that.
No one's doing that, and that's the great thing about the way a lot of people pay today, right? It's usually coming off of a debit card or a credit card. Most people are going to shift to that type of, like, a digital payment. You can always look back at your statement. It's a great tool. Okay,
so I mean, I assume you're a young guy. You use Bitcoin for everything, but I guess there's probably a statement somewhere for that somewhere too. So, okay, so what you're saying is I use my debit card for everything. That's a good idea, actually, because you're not using credit. So
it's one option. And if you use cash, just monitor when you withdrew cash, or if you're somebody who gets paid in cash, account for that in your budget, the amount of cash that you use for spending money.
Well, but in order to because I'm an accountant, so I understand this. There's a thing called a balance sheet, right? Which the left side has to equal the right side, which is totally irrelevant to this discussion because a balance sheet has nothing to do with your spending, but whatever. You can still use the same concept. So in your example, I get paid $500 cash, okay? And so I guess I write down I got paid $500 cash. And at the end of the week, if I've got $300, well, I guess I've spent $200. Now, I don't know where I've spent it. So part of your argument for tracking is I know where it went, so I can adjust my spending. So, okay, I think in your model, yes, I know the starting number and the ending number. I don't know the middle numbers, so I actually have to keep track of it. I do agree with you that if you use a debit card, then there's a statement. It's right there. Now, the debit card says, I went to Timmy's, $10. It doesn't say I bought a coffee and a whatever. But okay, that's probably enough information.
That's about as granular as you need to get, I think. The receipt will obviously show exactly what's on there. If you're using cash, get the receipt. If you're using a debit or credit card, you can go back, but again, you're only going to see that total dollar. With a grocery store receipt, you might want that itemized, right? Because you've got some household stuff in there. You never know. But that's something where if you're tracking the grocery, spending and food and everything like that anyway, you're already a huge chunk of the way there.
But you're not all the way there. So, okay, so let's assume that you're actually right, even though I've already said you're wrong. But I assume you're right. I've got my debit card and I keep the receipts and whatever. So I don't have to write anything down because it's all electronic today. And I agree with you. Nobody uses cash anymore. It's not a thing. So when the CBDCs come, we'll all be toast. But that'll be on my conspiracy.
You have to have some.
Channel.
You have to have some cash. Some places only take cash.
Yeah. So okay. So you gotta have. But let's keep it simple and assume I can do everything with debit because pretty much everywhere you can. Mm-hmm. So at the end of the month, I've got my debit card statement, which is on my phone or on my computer or whatever, and maybe I've got a few receipts as well. Well, I still have to do something with it.
Yep. You can even do it every time you get paid, right? Every 2 weeks, before payday, try and do it a little bit more frequently.
So what do I do with it? I've got all this raw data. How do I look to see how much I'm spending at each place?
I think you only look at your variable expenses, the stuff that changes. All your fixed expenses, you can total those up one time. That's how you make your budget.
So what's an example of a variable and a fixed?
Variable expense could be fuel, could be your food, could be coffee. But a lot of times coffee ends up being a fixed expense if you're making it at home. Fixed expense, your mortgage, your rent, insurance, card payments.
Basically
like
doesn't change every month.
Doesn't change. You add it up once, but you should be trying to focus on at least one of the variable expenses. A lot of times, focus on food. It's a huge chunk.
I love food.
It's a huge chunk of most families' budgets, and it's something that can fluctuate, right? Seasonality, special occasions, the level of meal prepping that you did, the level of organization. There's a direct relationship there. The more organized you are, the lower cost there's going to be on the food
and my
grocery
theory
side.
is we're not organized. Okay, now I'm a chartered accountant, a CPA. I'm an analytical guy. I'm not doing all that stuff. I'm just too lazy to do it. And I think I'm lazy, but I also don't see the end benefit to it. So, but let's get back to what you're saying. So, okay. I get paid at work every 2 weeks. So what I'm going to do is every 2 weeks add everything up. I don't want to leave it for a whole month or a whole year. That would be way too much. Yep. So, or I could do it every day, I guess, if I want. So how exactly am I doing this? Do I have a piece of paper? Am I using a spreadsheet? Well, like, how am I doing this?
Any of those options is great. You're going to create a spending summary for the last couple of weeks on all those things that you actually made a conscious financial decision on spending. You didn't make a decision. Your insurance just came out, right? That's not what we're talking about. Those are fixed expenses that need to get managed and need to be accounted for with your income. But you're looking at the transactions that you made a choice on: dollar store, variety store, gas station, pet store, laundromat, anything that you actually had to make a choice, spend the money, transaction appears on your statement.
Okay, so you're suggesting I have a piece of paper or a book or a spreadsheet or an app or whatever it is.
And there's a huge variety out there, right? You can use a computer, you can use like a software on the computer, you can use something that's embedded in a web browser, you can sign up for something with your email, get an app, you can do a lot of stuff for free. You can use just notes on your phone, you can use a journal, right? It is whatever you want it to be.
You're a big journaling guy, are you there, Charlie?
Not really.
Do you write your thoughts down every morning? Yeah, I don't do that either.
No, the computer is a good tool because you have it with, like most people have a phone that they can bring with them everywhere. Mm-hmm. And it is a good tool because, again, that crosses over a couple different boundaries. You can take photos of your receipts as well. There are a couple different things that will kind of analyze the
I'm sure there's
receipts.
AI that will do all that for you.
Exactly.
Okay, so again, I'm explaining why you're wrong here. So I do all that. Okay, every 2 weeks, I have an app on my phone or something, and it summarizes everything. And I look at it and I go, oh, I spent a little more on this than I would like to. Next month, I'm going to adjust my spending, whatever. And so when I start this out, I'm all gung-ho on, I'm going to do it. It's exactly like going on a diet or starting a fitness routine, right? I'm going to track every calorie. Well, that never works. Nobody's ever tracked every calorie for any more than about 15 minutes. I'm going to go to the gym at 5 a.m. every morning and lift my weight. Okay, for a week you'll do it, and then and then you stop doing it. It's the same with what you're describing. For the first week or two, maybe the first month, if I'm really dedicated, maybe for 3 or 4 months I'll do it. Mm-hmm. But eventually it's like, look, I got better things to do than adding up Tim Hortons receipts.
But it depends on what the motivation is. If you're looking to improve your budget and create a spending summary to pay off debt or to save money for a specific financial goal, you use that as leverage to try and actually carve out time and get that done. If it's important to you, you'll find a way to make that happen.
Did you know that, and I'm making up stats here because that's what it's a podcast, right? You just make stuff up. There's no facts beside it. Did you know that it's a fact that 92% of people who go on a diet end up 6 months later weighing more than when they went on their diet?
That's interesting.
I just made that up. I don't know if it's true or not. People can fact check, put a note in the comments on YouTube. But I bet you that there are a significant number of people who are not successful at that. They're not successful at their workout routine, and they're not successful at budgeting. And in fact, it's even worse than if they didn't budget, because now they're really demotivated. It's like, man, I tried and I wasn't able to do it. I'm a failure with money. Yep. Oh, well, I might as well just go and spend money.
It's all about approach. So we talk to people every day. We look at a lot of budgets. What works is taking on one thing at a time. I don't expect you to, if you've never tracked your expenses before, start with a spending summary just for one category. Focus on, okay, just total up how much you spent on fuel. Because everyone thinks it's this number, it may be less, it may be more. Focus on one thing. Build the habit of getting the habit of, I've got my receipt or I check my statement. Build that habit and then transfer it into, okay, I'm going to do food and fuel. And then slowly over time, you're building a little bit more of a base of tracking some of those expenses.
So I'm going to tell you how to really do it. And you can tell me what you think of this. So I agree that it is important to know where your money goes. I will accept that as the truth. But, and again, I'm much older than you. I'm a cynical guy. People aren't going to do it. So I just don't think the average person is going to, for a long period of time, or even a short period of time, do what, I would be willing to agree it's probably a good idea. They're just not going to do it. So here's my advice. Do what you said for a week, because anybody can do anything for a week. Like, you can probably do it for a week. So for 1 week, I'm going to, or maybe for the next month, put everything on your debit card. Don't look at it. Just everything on your debit card or everything on your credit. Like, it's all in one place. And then at the end of the month, take 2 hours, go into your bank statement or whatever and put notes beside it. This was food, this was the whatever, and kind of create a retroactive spending summary. It'll take you 1 hour to do that.
Yep.
Once in your life, won't kill you. So now you've got a bit of a baseline. That alone may give you some interesting shocks. I remember a client many, many years ago who spent a lot of money on magazines, okay, periodicals we used to call them. They don't exist anymore, I don't think, but I don't know what they were, fashion magazines, cooking magazines, I don't know what they were, but she liked reading magazines. And so I had her actually figure out how, and it was like $300 a month on magazines, and this is many years ago. And so I said to her, why don't you just go to the library and read the magazines there? And that's what she ended up doing and saving $300. So I totally agree that looking at where the money goes makes sense. But no one's going to track it forever, just like you're not going to count calories and record your workouts and all the rest of it. So the better solution is to say, okay, you have this concept of fixed and variable expenses. Most of my expenses are pretty much fixed. So, I mean, you mentioned fuel. Well, if I go to the office 5 times a week, it's pretty much the same number every month until the price goes up or down or whatever. Food, okay. I mean, it fluctuates a bit if I go to a lot of restaurants.
There's a range.
There's a range. Yeah. My cell phone bill, pretty much the same every month. If I go on equal billing with hydro or gas or something like that, pretty much the same. So my advice is don't do any of this stuff. Like, take the easy way out. Always cheat. Okay, that's my advice to everybody. Always cheat. So my cell phone bill is $100 a month. I get paid every 2 weeks. So I go into the fancy computer thing on my phone there and I say, send $50 to the cell phone company every payday. And I think you can do that on your phone, right? You can set a predetermined payment. And I don't know if you can schedule them. So like for the next 6 months it does it, or if I have to do it every.
It'll do it forever. This is the no budget budget.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. The no budget budget. We'll put a link in the show notes to the video.
It's a really great way of dealing with fixed expenses. I agree.
Yeah, because you don't have to think. Nobody wants to think. We don't have time to think. So it's okay. So I know that my cell phone bill is $100 a month. Every 2 weeks, I send them $50 or on the 15th and the 30th or whatever. So now I don't have to be tracking that. And I guess you already said you don't really have to track your fixed expenses anyways.
You do it once.
You do it once. Now, you got to take a look every now and then to see if your cell phone bill is still $100.
Or if it changes, your mortgage goes up, mortgage goes down, rent goes up, rent goes down.
Yeah, but your mortgage or your rent, it changes once a year or whatever.
Once every 5 years.
You make the adjustment, right? So, okay, I'm now the beauty of sending $50 on my $100 phone bill every 2 weeks is when I hit a 3 paycheck month, I've actually sent them an extra $50. So a year from now, I will have made an extra month's payment without even knowing it.
Exactly.
So now I can skip a month and I'm still good.
And we do the same thing with setting up a proposal.
That's exactly how a proposal works. Yeah. Exactly right. We take the payment, divide it over your pay periods, off you go. So now, okay, rent, my landlord wants an e-transfer on the 1st of every month.
And you can schedule that.
You can. Or what you could do is have a bank account just for rent, and every payday I put half the amount there, or a quarter of the amount there, or whatever, and then there's an alert on my phone that says, oh, it's the 1st, go into that account and send the guy the rent.
Yep.
And you can do that for any expense that is a monthly expense. Car insurance might be a monthly expense. Rent would be the obvious one. And obviously things like phone bills and whatnot would be the same as well. So my point is, rather than tracking everything, pay them automatically. Now, food. Okay, that was a good example you gave because that is a different number every week. Oh, chicken's on sale. I'm buying some extra, whatever. Okay, well, I know that roughly it costs me X number of dollars a month for food. So again, I could have a separate bank account just for food if I wanted. Every payday, I put, X number into that account. I got a debit card just for that account. I spend it on it. I don't think you have to do all that work. Because
you could keep it a little bit more simple. Once you've measured it for a little while, I do agree. I think do it for a short period of time, and then kind of what the range would be. From there, kind of getting back to the goal setting, if there's a savings goal or a debt repayment goal, do that first when you get paid. If you're trying to save, pay yourself first, or if you're trying to pay off debt, pay off the chunk of the debt, and then spend the money kind of how you want. Once you've hit the most important financial goal, you're taking care of all your expenses, you're making the payments on your debt, or you're saving for the future, go live your life.
Yeah.
But you have to have some level of tracking involved.
Well, if in my example, and you're kind of saying the same thing that I'm saying. So I've got all these fixed things that, boom, they automatically get paid on payday. So at the end of payday is on a Friday. So by Friday night, my rent, my hydro, my gas, my whatever has all gone out. So the only thing left in my bank account is whatever I'm going to need for the next 2 weeks till the next payday. Well, that's basically my food budget, my coffee budget, whatever. Okay, so then it's pretty simple. I got $500 left in my bank account for the next 2 weeks. I guess I can spend a couple of $100 at the grocery store today. Mm-hmm. I can go buy a coffee, whatever, I know. But all I have to do is stretch that $500 in my example for 2 weeks.
And that's the subtraction method. And we see it a lot because all of our clients are managing their budgets without credit. So when they've got that $500 left over, that's their spending money. That's what they use to pay for life. However, with the subtraction method, there isn't the accounting for, I want to roll over $125 and I want that to be available in my account next time I get paid. So next time when I'm budgeting my, my variable expenses, I'm not working with 500, I'm working with 625. Mm-hmm. That can be a financial goal for a lot of people, is to get away from being paycheck to paycheck, whether you're looking for savings or whether you're looking for, debt repayment. That's a really important consideration to say, if I want to roll over, call it $25. If you keeps rolling over every 2 weeks, that can be a form of, motivation or kind of gamifying that I want to leave as much money as I can in the account. And one good way to do that is measuring the small stuff, because people forget about birthdays and they forget about special occasions and that time where you had to, you made a recipe and you burnt it and you had to go and double it and go get new stuff from the store. That sometimes slips through the cracks of a typical budget. We never account for that stuff. We look for the habitual stuff, and sometimes we miss the occasional stuff. You bought a Lego set because your kid's birthday was coming up. That's the sort of thing you got to try and track as much as you can. But again, once the fixed expenses are measured, just focus on the variable stuff.
Yeah, and I guess my approach would be, okay, I know that I've got the fixed stuff. Like, it's pretty obvious what my rent is. I don't have to think about that, and that might be the biggest expense I've got. You're right. You have to be looking ahead, and I think looking ahead is more important than looking behind. I got to look ahead and go, I got this birthday coming up, Christmas. I know Christmas this year, I looked it up, December 25th. So you can mark that in your calendar. That's when it's going to be this year. Easter, they make it that different every year. And I know when my kid's birthday is, and my this and my that, my summer vacation, whatever. Maybe I pay my car insurance once a year because I'm on an annual billing, or my house insurance or something. Okay, so you can figure all those things out. Well, what you're doing then is, in your budget, you're saying, I need to be putting aside $127 every month for those things that are going to happen in the future.
Exactly.
And so once I've done that math and kind of figured out what that is, I would have somewhere to hide it. A separate bank account would be the obvious one. So every month I put $127 into that account, and that's the account I use for birthdays, Christmas, vacations, anything that is not a monthly expense. So I'm not budgeting it, I'm paying it in advance, exactly the way I'm doing my cell phone bill in advance. Now, is that really a cheating way to do a budget? I guess so. Yep. And it accomplishes the same thing. The beauty of the world we live in today is you can get a bunch of free bank accounts if you want. There's lots of banks, the online ones.
And we know I'm a huge fan of those.
Yes, you love them. You love them. You've got 97 different bank accounts, I think. So, and I don't agree with 97 bank accounts, but you've got your main operating account. That's where I pay my stuff.
No more than 5, I think.
Yeah, I mean, you got to, and as an accountant, it is possible to have a spreadsheet where the money in your bank account is allocated. It's kind of like, GL entries and all the rest of it.
But to keep it simple, right, if you had 2 accounts, right, you have your everyday account and then you have your occasional account, which can be a bit of an emergency fund. And what we're talking about is also a good way of, if you're trying to pay some of those expenses ahead of time, if something else comes up, you've kind of built a bit of a buffer or an emergency fund. You have to get something for your vehicle or something like that. And if there is an unexpected expense and you've been tracking some of the smaller stuff, you'll have a better idea of what you need, what behavior shifts you need to do over the short term to meet that spending obligation by the time you get paid next, or to how to adjust your whether it's your food or fuel, whatever, in order to make that obligation happen.
Yeah, and you could certainly do it with two accounts. I mean, you could do it with one account. Like it's businesses run with, I mean, Hoyes Meticulous and Associates Inc. here has one primary bank account. We do everything through that. You could certainly do it that way. You just have to have a system where you say, okay, the money that is in the bank, some of it is spoken for. Mm-hmm. That's for the vacation 3 months from now. So when I look at my bank account and I see that money, it's not really there. That's why I like to have a second bank account where all that money is, so that when I look at my main bank account, whatever's there, that's what I can spend until next payday. I don't have to think about it. You could certainly have multiple bank accounts. And again, I'll put a link in the show notes to the budgeting videos I've done. I believe I called it a plan account. These are things that are in the future that I'm going to have to spend in the future. The reason it's in a separate bank account is it's not in my face every time I look at my phone.
And it shouldn't be, yeah.
And it shouldn't be. And even if you have a separate, so I got my main bank account at the bricks and mortar bank, and then I've got my savings plan account, hidden account.
Online in the cloud.
Online in the cloud. So it's not on my main banking app because it's not my main bank. I can still see it, but there's a bit of friction to get to it. To me, that's kind of the perfect blend. Now, if you've managed to start accumulating a bit of wealth, fantastic. Mm-hmm. Now you got a TFSA, which is a great account that's excellent for an emergency fund because you can take money out. There's no tax implications.
It's got the most flexibility. Yeah, it's great place to be for sure.
And if you're building up savings for the house you're going to buy or whatever, your kid's education, lots of different vehicles to do that. But I don't know. I am just, what is the absolute simplest way I can do it and still get to my goals? So I think my advice to the listener here, and we only have one listener, so how you doing? Good to talk to you again, is figure out what works for you. Because some people are pretty analytical. Oh, I love keeping track of every dollar. Okay, then do it. That's fantastic. That's great. And some people are, no, I can't do it. I talked to a guy yesterday who runs a business, and he's fantastic at running the business, whatever it is the thing does. He's great at sales, lousy at the accounting. Well, no kidding. You're a creative person. I would think you would be good at the creative stuff and not so good at the number crunching stuff.
But you can improve at it. It's a skill. Anything you do often, you will improve on. And finding ways to take on one thing at a time. Start with tracking one expense. Do it over a long period of time. We're at the beginning there. Work on it. Practice it. It is a skill you can develop, right? You can be somebody who tracks every dollar, and you can be somebody who saves and pays off debt, but you have to try. You have to give it a shot. You have to, have faith that even if it's not perfect right away, again, we're not talking about having a perfect budget right away. Just give it a try.
Well, I can't dispute that. I mean, okay, give it a shot. So
there's a phrase, right? It's progress, not perfection. That's what we want.
Well, and yes, and perfection is the enemy of getting it done or something. I forget. Again, put it in the comments. We don't do any show prep. I didn't even look at the script here. I wonder what was on the script today. Yeah, I'm sure there was a bunch of stuff we didn't talk about. But okay, what you are saying, and I will agree with you that the way to eat an elephant is one bite at a time. So maybe you start by saying, okay, I'm going to track food. That would be the logical one to me because it's the most variable.
Certainly. And we look at a lot of budgets, and that is the category that's gone up the most. It's the hardest. It's the hardest on a lot of families that we're talking to.
It's a killer.
For sure.
So, okay, I'm going to do a deep dive on food. I'm going to save every receipt at the grocery store. Every time I get takeout, order in, whatever, I'm going to record everything and actually look at those numbers, because that's probably the biggest bang for the buck too. That's an area where I can make perhaps the most significant changes.
And even if the dollar value stays the same, this is really important when it comes to grocery budgets, right? If you're spending $400, but if you could optimize that $400, if it's the dollar spend is the same, but you can get more for it, whether it's more nutrition, more quantity, more selection, whatever, more fresh. I don't know if that makes sense. If you can get more for that same amount, you are getting more in the end, right? So winning. Optimize the dollars that are coming out.
Yeah, to cook at home costs a lot less than to order in. like significantly less. It's a big difference. So I agree with you. Maybe I'm not reducing the dollars spent, but I'm getting more.
And that
for
happens
the
when people start measuring. They say, we spent $150 and we only got 2 bags of groceries. Well, there could be some optimization there, right? Spending $250 a month on takeout, $250 in grocery store, I agree. Not the same.
Yeah. Yeah. And, DoorDash or Uber Eats or whatever, it costs X number of dollars to
fees, taxes.
Exactly. Delivery charges, whatever. Well, that same X I could have bought 3 times as much as the grocery store by tracking it.
And hopefully no tax at the grocery store too. Yeah.
Exactly. So, okay. Well, I think the summary of all this is, I'm right and you're wrong, but it's up to the listener to decide for themselves. I do agree that doing the deep dive once is a good exercise because it's a limited time. Spend a month, an hour, whatever it is, analyze everything, because that alone may get you 80% of the benefit right there. If you are an analytical person and really want to do the deep dive on a longer term basis, fantastic. Look at the tools that are out there. You can create a spreadsheet and suck the data in from your banking app. It's not hard. I've been doing it for 30 years. So, okay, if you don't want to be doing all the key punching, there's ways to do it. There's other apps, as you said, that can do that. But you got to figure out what works for you. Don't try to overshoot. And I agree with you. Pick one thing to start with then. And if it's like, boy, I saved a lot of money looking at my food. Okay, well, now maybe I'll look at, the other items in my budget and see what I can do there. Yep. So
opens the door, right? Open your mind to different possibilities.
Open your mind to different possibilities. There you go. So again, it doesn't matter what you or I think. Our brains are different than whoever's watching. Do what works for you, but pay attention. Just figure out how to pay attention the best way.
I like that. Pay attention.
There you go. Pay attention, everybody. Charlie, thank you very much for being here. I will put links in the show notes to the stuff we talked about, including some of these other videos that we have done on this exact topic. Spend a bit of time figuring out what works for you and do that. If you're watching on YouTube, like, subscribe, notification button, put a comment in telling why Charlie's wrong and why I'm absolutely correct on this one. Or if you disagree with me, fine, I put it in there, whatever. Figure out what works for you. That is our show for today. There will be a new show next week, believe it or not, every Saturday morning on YouTube, and it also comes out on the audio platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. So like, subscribe, and see it. That is our show for today. Thanks for watching and listening. Until next week, I'm Doug Hoyes. That was Debt Free in 30.